The royal tour was nearing its quiet conclusion, at the kind of ending that usually fades gently. Without headlines, the cameras were still, the crowd smaller, the mood softer. Prince William and Princess Kate moved calmly through a room of frontline workers, their voices low, their smiles warm. This was pandemic-era Britain, a country shaped by resilience, loss, and quiet courage. And this final stop wasn't about ceremony. It was about gratitude. But then, something unexpected happened. A 96-year-old woman stepped forward, and in a matter of seconds, she transformed a formal royal visit into something deeply human. Because what followed wasn't scripted. It wasn't rehearsed. Tour itself came at a delicate moment, a time when Britain was still quietly carrying the weight of uncertainty. Hospitals had become symbols of endurance. Communities had leaned on one another. And ordinary people had stepped into extraordinary roles. For Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, this wasn't a tour built around grandeur. It was something far more deliberate. Their focus remained on frontline workers, NHS staff, volunteers, military representatives, and those who had kept daily life moving when the world slowed down. Every stop felt intentional. Every conversation, personal. This was a shift from traditional royal appearances, fewer formal speeches, more listening, fewer staged moments, more genuine exchanges. Because during uncertain times, leadership looks different. It becomes quieter, more empathetic, more human. And often, it's the smallest interactions, the unscripted smiles, the unexpected jokes that reveal the most about character. As the tour moved into its final days, the pace slowed not out of fatigue, but intention. The focus shifted from movement to meaning. Fewer locations, longer conversations, more listening. Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, spent these final moments meeting those who had carried the country through its most difficult chapter. NHS staff, frontline workers, volunteers, and community leaders. There were no grand stages, no dramatic speeches. Instead, there were quiet rooms filled with stories of long shifts, missed family milestones, and resilience that rarely made headlines. The couple moved carefully through each interaction, their approach understated but deliberate. They asked questions, they listened, they allowed space for emotion, something that felt rare in traditional royal settings. And in doing so, the tone of the visit shifted. This wasn't about visibility. It was about presence. At a time when public morale was still fragile, even small gestures carried weight. A shared laugh, a thoughtful pause, a moment of recognition. Because sometimes leadership doesn't arrive with announcements. Sometimes it simply shows up quietly and listens. Then came one of the tour's most thoughtful surprises. Something quietly creative and deeply symbolic. As evening settled in, a specially constructed drive-in cinema came to life. Rows of cars lined up beneath the open sky, headlights flickering softly in the fading light. It wasn't a traditional royal setting, and that was precisely the point. The film chosen for the night was Cruella, starring Emma Stone, a bold, vibrant story that felt like a deliberate contrast to the months of quiet strain. The event had been organized specifically for NHS workers and frontline staff, those who had spent countless nights under fluorescent hospital lights, now invited to share a different kind of evening under the stars. There was something cinematic about it all. The hum of engines, the glow of headlights, the gentle ripple of applause echoing through open windows. For many, it was more than just a film screening. It was a moment of release. A small celebration, a quiet thank you. After months of pressure, uncertainty, and sacrifice, this simple gesture carried unexpected emotional weight. Because sometimes leadership doesn't just recognize hardship, but it was during a quieter, more personal visit that the tour's most memorable moment unfolded. On this occasion, Prince William arrived alone at Queen's Bay Lodge Care Home, a care home tucked quietly within Edinburgh. The atmosphere was calm, welcoming, and far removed from royal spectacle. Inside, residents and staff gathered with gentle excitement. There were smiles, polite greetings, and the familiar rhythm of a royal engagement, warm, respectful, carefully paced. William moved from one conversation to another, listening to stories, asking questions, and sharing quiet laughter. And then he met Betty McGee. At 96 years old, Betty carried a spark that immediately changed the tone of the room. Her demeanor was playful, her humor effortless, and her presence impossible to ignore. What followed wasn't planned. It wasn't formal. It was simply human. As Betty spoke with William, her wit cut through royal protocol, turning a polite exchange into a genuinely joyful moment. Staff members smiled. Cameras captured the unexpected warmth, and suddenly, the formality that often surrounds royal visits softened into something far more authentic. This wasn't about titles or tradition anymore. It was about connection. And in that brief, spontaneous interaction, a 96-year-old woman transformed a routine engagement into something quietly unforgettable later. During a video call connected to the drive-in cinema event, Prince William found himself recounting the memorable interaction. On the other side of the screen were Emma Thompson and Emma Stone, both joining the event virtually to celebrate. NHS workers watching Cruella. As William described meeting the 96-year-old Betty, the tone shifted from formal to relaxed. He joked about the realities of social distancing, explaining how Betty had leaned in closer than expected, turning a cautious royal moment into something warmly human. The actresses laughed. William smiled. And for a brief moment, the boundaries of royal formality softened. It was light, unscripted, and refreshingly natural. Through a simple video call, the public glimpsed a different side of royal life, a one shaped not by ceremony, but by shared humor and genuine connection. Because sometimes it's laughter, quiet, spontaneous, and unguarded that brings people closer together, even from miles apart. What these moments revealed was something deeper, a quiet shift in how modern royalty connects with the public. For Prince William, leadership increasingly appears less about ceremony and more about relatability. The carefully staged grandeur of royal tradition is slowly giving way to something softer, emotional intelligence, empathy, and presence. These weren't headline-grabbing speeches or historic announcements. They were small gestures, a conversation, a laugh, a shared story. Yet those moments carried lasting impact. Because people rarely remember protocol. They remember how something felt. This is where William's evolving leadership style becomes clear. Quiet listening, thoughtful humor, genuine warmth. These subtle qualities create a different kind of influence, one built not on distance, but connection. And perhaps that's why these interactions resonate so strongly. In uncertain times, audiences aren't looking for perfection. They're looking for humanity. Sometimes the most powerful leadership isn't loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's simply kindness offered in a small moment. In the end, this wasn't a tour defined by spectacle or ceremony. It was shaped by something quieter humanity, from heartfelt conversations with frontline workers to a drive-in cinema under the night sky. Each moment carried a gentle sense of purpose. But the most memorable highlight came from the most unexpected place. A 96-year-old woman whose humor and warmth briefly transformed royal formality into something deeply relatable. There were no grand declarations, no dramatic headlines planned in advance, just laughter, kindness, and connection. And perhaps that's what modern royal leadership is becoming, less about distance, more about understanding. Because sometimes the smallest moments leave the biggest impact. And this quiet tour left a lasting impression.